Deep in the mountains of Europe, a powerful and majestic beast claims dominance of both land and sky. The awe and majesty of the griffin are second to none, and among all creatures that occupy the heavens or trudge upon the land, it alone may claim to be king. A leonine and elegant body renders this creature a formidable yet stunning beast to encounter. The feline hind and forelegs of this creature make it an image of grace as it leaps across the land, easily defying the bounds of the terrain that would otherwise hamper us lesser creatures. However, in addition to this elegant form, we see that the griffin also has features of an eagle, king among the clouds. With massive wings, the griffin is able to soar to the heights of the world, ascending far beyond the abilities of similarly gifted creatures. This combination of eagle and lion into one creature makes for an intimidating yet fantastic beast that represents the apex of all we find to be noble and powerful in this world. The griffin is a unique creature, not only for its power and grace, but especially in the way it conducts its relationships. The adult griffin is strictly monogamous. Once mated, a pair of griffins will remain together for life. Should a griffin in a pair die, its partner will remain alone for the rest of its days, never again seeking the contact with other creatures in the same way again. An egg-laying creature, the griffin will often make nests in the top of mountains and upon rocky hills, a fitting position considering the creature's lofty status in the animal kingdom. The dedication a mated pair share with one another will extend to the offspring. They will nurture and care for their young in much the same way as any mammal. Finally, when the young griffin is ready to leave the nest, it spreads its wings and travels a great distance in search for a mate. Much like other powerful creatures, the griffin will hoard precious metals, such as silver or gold, in order to decorate their nests. This makes the nests a target for marauding bandits or greedy adventurers. However, they approach the nest of a griffin at their own peril, as these lords of land and air are fiercely territorial and do not take threats to their domain lightly. Despite this ferocity, griffins rarely, if ever, attack human beings. They mostly hunt larger mammals and domesticated animals such as sheep and cattle. While the latter does present as a nuisance to those affected by this creature, it is often considered an honor to be visited by a griffin, and its golden feathers are considered to be quite valuable, being as they are able to restore sight to the blind. In this way, the king of beasts trades for animals that it snatches by dropping valuables in return. A majestic and amazing creature, the griffin represents all that is good and noble in our world. Although quite fierce, the griffin is something we can all respect and admire about the majesty and wonder of nature. Perhaps one of the most famous creatures in all of mythology, the griffin is an ancient and significant creature that has been with us since time immemorial. The oldest depictions of the griffin come to us from ancient Egypt and the Near East, where the creature first appears in engravings on metal plates almost 3,000 years ago. From this inception, the creature spread across the Western world, particularly taking root in ancient Greek culture. It is believed that the griffin originally came into existence through the observations made by merchants on the Silk Road. These merchants would encounter various fossils of extinct creatures such as dinosaurs. Traders passing through northern China and the Mongolian region would specifically encounter the remains of Protoceratops, the stories of which would eventually transform into the Greek griffin, especially given that culture's supposed tendency to misinterpret fossils they encountered. This Hellenic griffin would eventually become the griffin we know today, and was quite popular in that culture. Everything from coins to statues bear its visage. It even appeared on frescoes in the throne room of the Palace of Knossos. With such associations and frequent use, it's hardly any wonder that the griffin remains as popular as it does today, especially as it was considered to be worthy enough to appear on the crests of kings, a practice which continues to this day. Other cultures in the ancient world would also come to adopt variations of the griffin creature into their culture, from the Jewish Ziz to the Hindu Garuda, and even such strange depictions as the Phoenician Sphinx. It's clear that the griffin has evolved and mutated into a multitude of other popular creatures we still recognize today. In later years, The positive nature and clearly fantastical status of this creature became, in Europe, associated with similarly positive aspects in Christian culture. This is a very rare and curious event, as Christian culture would often turn the pagan beasts of older cultures into demons and avatars of humanity's worst characteristics. While the griffin was given a similar treatment, this was very much in the opposite direction, as the griffin came to represent nobility, honor, and bravery. This situation is perhaps the result of prior associations between the griffin and powerful people in the ancient and medieval world. As European culture held the ancient Greeks in high esteem, it would then be unwise to turn a common Greek symbol into something evil, especially since it is doubtless that many families in positions of political power would have taken the griffin on their coat of arms. This latter aspect is actually a common depiction of the griffin. Where observing heraldry of European families, we find this creature is among the most common depictions, despite the intricacy of the creature's design making it a poor decision for any kind of easily recognizable symbol. In the modern world, the griffin has become a legend within our legends, often depicted as a particularly rare or extinct creature among all the mythical beasts. We find it as a rare animal in the Witcher books, and in Harry Potter, the griffin has been bred almost entirely into hippogriffs, a combination of griffin and horse. In the Dragon Age series, the griffin was traditionally the mount of the Grey Wardens before becoming extinct. Of course, there are direct depictions of the griffin in high fantasy, as such a popular creature cannot entirely fall out of common interest. Therefore, we see it depicted in many stories, especially ones focused on mass warfare such as the Warhammer series and the Chronicles of Narnia. This latter narrative media, with its heavy Christian overtones, demonstrates the previous idea that Christianity adopted the griffin in a very positive manner. Given all of this, it is then not surprising that the griffin remains with us to this day, and although it is a strange and elusive creature, we can certainly expect it to stay with our culture for a very long time to come. The griffin is perhaps one of the most difficult creatures to attempt to place in the real world, simply by virtue of its physiology. Like a dragon, the griffin is a hexapodal creature that, despite its large size, is able to fly and maneuver on land with ease. It is clearly a predator and also bears many characteristics of a mammal, such as caring for its young. As we cannot interbreed lions and eagles, or any animal related to these two parts of the griffin, it is unreasonable to expect that the griffin could come about in the same way as we would create ligers and mules, by inbreeding two partially related species. This is because, rather obviously, the genetic differences between a feline and a raptor is too wide to produce viable offspring. Rather, we must select a single creature and see if we can build the griffin from an existing species. To this end, one might first consider that the lion is a good starting point for the griffin, as the majority of its body appears to be that of a lion's, but the fact that the griffin is capable of powered flight leads us to a problem, where the mass of something like a lion is too great in order for the creature to be able to fly. Even if we were to do something like hollowing the bones, the sheer muscle mass and size of the body as it currently stands is simply far too great to create something like what we expect from the griffin. However, the fossil record provides us with a stronger foundation if we consider a bird-like animal as the primary foundation. Not only are many raptors, such as Thoreau's eagle, mated for life, but they also care for their young in much the same way as the griffin does in myth. From pterodactyls to more modern condors, birds and other similar flying species have grown to massive sizes throughout history. Of note is the Argentavis magnificens, a massive prehistoric bird discovered by Dr. Kenneth Campbell. This large bird had the wingspan of up to 6 meters and weighed up to 40 kilograms by some estimates. This kind of creature is certainly within the realms of what we might expect for a typical griffin. However, we are lacking the 4 legs that would normally be associated with such a creature. Alas, there is little evidence of birds developing additional limbs, and although history has shown that such defects such as supernumerous wings and legs are possible, they are rather rare. Nevertheless, it does occur. Interestingly, birds are also affected by a syndrome known as polymelia. Polymelia occurs usually when a twin set of embryos fuse during development, and the resultant creature develops the limbs that would have otherwise grown. This results in a single individual with several limbs and organs, and can result in a cancer known as teratoma. Again, this is rare, but if we apply this kind of developmental deformity to a bird, we may certainly find that the resulting creature would resemble a griffin. Despite this, we must remember that the griffin is an essentially impossible creature. Its existence is primarily the result of a conscious effort to create a noble and powerful beast, rather than to describe some strange phenomena, or existing as a creature developed slowly over time, as we find with most mythical creatures. Consequently, the griffin is rather impossible, even if we are to mutate a bird to have additional limbs. But what it represents, strength, nobility, and power, will ensure that the creature remains with us in spirit for ages yet to come.